Welcome to Finn talks about the stuff they like instead of being scared to post on YouTube, but it's not always about Genshin Impact or voice actors. Yay! Because I have a platform and a space to post videos, I'm gonna use it to my advantage to tell you all about a really cool, neat little game. In Stars and Time. Also, I'm sick right now, so I apologize if my voice sounds bad. This video, for the most part, will not contain spoilers past the initial game mechanics, characters, and story past your first bit of playing. However, later into the video I will get into more spoilers, but there will be appropriate timestamps to skip those if you wish. However, I do think that this is a game best gone into mostly blind, so if you're interested already just by the gameplay I'm showing on screen, go play it. It's like $20 on Windows, PS4, 5, and Nintendo Switch. Just go play it. The game does also go into some dark topics, which it does warn you about at the beginning of the game, but I will scroll all of the trigger warnings on screen right here and link the website in the description, which explains them in a bit more detail. Anyways, so time loops, am I right? You know in video games, if you die, you're usually brought back to a previous save point and you have to replay a section of the game again? Essentially, in Stars and Time is that exact concept, but if the protagonist was aware of each death and preceding time loop. All of their allies and friends are unaware of each loop, besides one character, but I'll get into that later. And the game explores the protagonist, Siffrin, trying to learn more about the loops, how to escape them, and the toll it takes on their mental state as they begin to see their friends more like actors on a stage performing a play rather than friends. The game began from a comic that the creator of the game, Adrienne, or Insert Disc 5, created about this exact concept, a character who is aware of looping gameplay. This concept turned into ISAT's prototype, Start Again, Start Again, Start Again, a prologue, or lovingly known as SASASAP, and then that game turned into In Stars and Time. The combat in the game is turn-based, with each of your allies having a turn at attacking. The combat system is based on rock, paper, scissors, with each character primarily wielding a single type, being either rock, paper, or scissors. Some have the ability to use multiple types using a neat little thing called craft, which is essentially the magic of their world. Craft can get way more advanced than this, but that's getting into spoilers, whoopsies. Anyway, where should I go from here? Basic plot. Basically, you and your friends are tasked with saving the country of Vogard from being frozen in time. The king, the one causing all of this shit, has been freezing people in time with his tears. The people aren't necessarily dead, rather they're just frozen and can't move or interact. This, obviously, is not good. So one of your friends, Mirabelle, is the chosen one and has the power to unfreeze people. It's now on you with the help of your friends to save the world. I should just talk about the characters now. The characters in this game feel so well written and real, despite them initially starting as typical character tropes. Mirabelle, who often seems like more of a main character than Siffrin, as I just explained, is the chosen one tasked to save everyone, yada yada yada. She is a member of the House of Change in Dormont, which is a house for the religion that the people of Vogard follow. Mirabelle's kind-hearted, cares about her friends, and is lovely if not a little insecure. Odile, the too old for this shit wise old lady, likes the team seemingly begrudgingly, but deep down she cares about her friends. Isabeau is your typical airheaded jock-type character who always has something important to tell Siffrin, but for the life of him, cannot spit it out. Bonnie, the resident preteen who's always on snack duty, and Loop, who isn't exactly a member of your team, but is the only one who experiences the loops alongside Siffrin and provides various tutorial and guide support. I should note that if everything about these characters sounds very tropey, and that's the point. I don't want to get too into spoilers, but essentially there's an aspect about each of these characters that intentionally subverts these tropes. It's done really beautifully and makes the characters extremely lovable. God, I love them all so much. Okay, going forward, this video will contain some mid-game spoilers. Past your first few hours of gameplay, but no final ending spoilers. Hi, editing Finn here. I totally forgot to put this in my script, but when you at first enter the house, Siffrin fucking dies by getting crushed by a rock, and that's how you find out that you're stuck in a time loop. I don't know how I forgot to add this, but it's a pretty important detail, yeah. Once you traverse the house, kill the king, and talk to the head housemaiden, everything seems all fine and good. Until the music gets all freaky, something's broken, failing, rotting, and Siffrin is sent back to the start of the game to do it all over again. Whenever something happens in the game and you don't really know what to do, Loop is essentially your guide. At this point in the game, you don't know who or what Loop really is, but they seem to be understanding and aware of your situation. They're the first one to tell you about the time loops, and they know how to use the loops, but they only know as much as you do when it comes to what's causing them and how to break them. At this point in the game, the goal is to just figure out what's happening, explore the house a few more times, and pick up on details you missed. Open some more doors, get to a secret library to read a language you couldn't understand before, to have more interactions with your friends. And one of the most heartwarming yet sad moments of the game are the friend quests. These quests take place back in Dormont, where you spend a period of time getting to know your friends better. Mirabelle tells you about how she's aromantic asexual and feels pressured to find a partner to be with when that isn't what she wants. Mirabelle's quest stuck with me particularly hard as someone on the ARA spectrum myself. This specific queer issue I feel is rarely talked about amongst the wider community, so it meant a lot to me to see it represented. Odile's quest involved trying to find a family tale, which is a type of book that documents the life of a certain family in Vogard. In this quest, we learn that Odile is not only just from Kabwe, her home country, but her estranged mother was from Vogard. Odile expressed how she feels disconnected from this part of her heritage and culture, and how she feels she doesn't fully fit in within either culture. While I can't relate exactly to her ideal situation, I understand the disconnect she would feel from both cultures and how difficult it must be to have half her heritage missing from her life. In Bonnie's quest, Siffrin helps them defeat a sadness, the main enemy type in the game, and we learn that Siffrin lost one of his eyes to a sadness. Bonnie feels that it was their fault that Siffrin got injured like this and has been carrying the weight about it for the whole game prior. Siffrin assures them that it was not their fault and they hug and it's adorable. Oh my god, I love Bonnie so much. With Isabeau, we go stargazing with him and learn that he's trans and he puts on the airheaded jock personality even though that isn't really him. He wants to be more of a nerd, a clothing designer, and talks about how he didn't really like the person he was before. It's funny because I've heard Isabeau's quest described as a trans allegory because the word transgender is never used explicitly, but it's also mentioned elsewhere that Isabeau used bodycraft on himself, a type of craft used to change your body. Yeah, this is trans mass goals right here. At this point, Siffrin's bonded so close with his family that he doesn't want them to forget these experiences, which they would forget about if he ever looped back to Dormont. This changes the way they see the loops, and they have to try really hard not to die, get frozen, or end up looping back to Dormont unless his family forgets that they ever became family. The most heartbreaking part is that, inevitably, you will loop back to Dormont, and your family will forget that you ever helped them with their problems or got closer to them. It's at this point that Siffrin's mental state spirals further, and he starts viewing his friends and himself as actors on a stage instead of actual people. And that was a short segment. At this part of the video, I'll be getting into spoilers for the last few acts of the game, but mostly talking about my overall thoughts and feelings about it. I will not be talking about the very end of the game, so no need to worry about spoilers for that, but I will tell you that if you beat the game and only got one hat at the end of the credits and not two hats, you are missing a big thing and should go figure that out. Anyway, at this point in the game, Siffrin is running out of leads to figure out how to stop the loops. He has a theory that maybe he has to be the one to kill the king, since every time he's fought the king prior, it's been Mirabelle to deal the final blow. This results in Siffrin going to the house by themselves. This is sort of the point of no return, because the house is completely glitched, items are copied ridiculously, doors don't lead where they used to, and the game refuses to let you loop back to Dormont to reset the loop. This game handles horror in such an interesting way by not showing anything gory or relying on scares to instill fear in the player. You read in detail how Siffrin cuts himself, how dying feels, what it's like to lose your family. The writing in this game is fantastic, and combined with the music and world building, it really makes you feel fully immersed in its world. I'd also like to recommend Craft Your Bees video, How In Stars in Time Inspires Fear Without Horror, for a more in-depth plot explanation, so go check it out. I'd like to backtrack a bit and talk about how important the queer representation in this game is. As someone coming from fandoms mostly about larger games made by bigger companies, there typically isn't much confirmed canon queer representation, so playing a game with very clearly trans characters who don't use binary pronouns, queer characters, and multiple types of queer, makes me really happy. There's a much bigger conversation to be had about the importance of queer representation in media in general, but the way In Stars in Time handles it being written from a queer perspective and to be understood by other queer people is incredibly important to me. And even if In Stars in Time was played by a person who isn't queer, the message can still be understood. The queerness is weaved into the story so well to where it's relatively normal to be trans or queer in the game universe, but to also experience feelings of otherness for not fitting in right, which I think plenty of non-queer people can relate to in their own ways. I think if this game were more widely known, lots of non-queer people could still enjoy it and develop a deeper understanding of what it's like to be queer. Being a queer person, I've played plenty of queer games myself, but I think there's something special about the way In Stars in Time handles queerness in-universe, with characters telling you their pronouns and having it listed in profiles, people getting to change their names and bodies and appearances if they feel like what they have doesn't match how they feel. And again, as gay as this game is, it's still a game for everyone. The community jokes about there not being a single straight ISAT fan, but I think straight and cis people can still get a lot out of this game. Honestly, one of the most important parts of this game for me is the way it handles friendship. With the way our society prioritizes romantic partnerships over anything else, it meant a lot to see friendship being prioritized and have it be the main relationship dynamic of the characters. In Stars in Time is a lovely game about so many things. It's about love in all of its forms and flavors. It's about community, memory, identity in more ways than one, heritage and how it affects you, loss, mental health, and so much more. I think one of the most beautiful parts of this game is its depiction of friendship and family. Found family is an established genre, but I rarely see it depicted in this way. Mirabelle describes feeling like she has to love someone in a very specific romantic way, but how it's okay that these characters love each other like family, and how that's just as fulfilling as a romantic relationship. The game shows that even if you aren't connected to your heritage, whether you can even remember it or not, you can still find people who love you and who you fit into with. You could say that the message of this game could be watered down to the power of friendship, but yeah, friendship is powerful and important. That was a long, messy rant about how much I love this game. Hope you guys liked the video. Please play In Stars in Time. It's a great game. Please. I know this is not like my normal other videos that are about Genshin Impact and don't involve my voice, but rather the voices of other people. But I hope that this style of video was enjoyable anyways. I like talking about the things that I enjoy, and I want YouTube to be a space that I don't feel like I need to avoid posting to just because it's not about what I've established myself to be. Like, this is a creative space for me, and I can do what I want with it and do what makes me happy. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe.